Dr. Alan Mercer stared at his computer screen, rubbing his tired eyes. For 3 weeks, he had been analyzing stellar collapse data from the Lunar Observatory, and something wasn't right. The pattern that emerged from his calculations made his stomach knot with worry. "Olivia, can you look at this?" he called to his colleague across the lab. Dr. Olivia Wright sighed, setting down her coffee mug. She wheeled her chair over to Alan's workstation. "What am I looking at?" she asked, squinting at the screen full of numbers and graphs. "These star deaths aren't random," Alan said, pointing to a cluster of red dots on his galactic map. "They're sequential, moving in a pattern. Almost like... Like what?" "Like something is causing them. Something moving through the galaxies." Olivia frowned. "That's impossible. Stars die for specific reasons. Fusion failure, gravitational collapse. Not because something is killing them." Alan pulled up another screen showing timelines. "Look at the acceleration pattern. 5 years ago, we recorded about 3 unexplained stellar collapses per standard year. Last year, 27. This quarter alone, 42. Olivia leaned closer, her skepticism fading. "And they're all moving in the same directional path." "Yes. Toward us." The following day, they brought their findings to Dr. Raymond Frost, director of the Lunar Observatory. His office, with its large window overlooking the lunar surface, felt cold despite the climate controls. "This is highly speculative," Dr. Frost said, flipping through their report. "You're suggesting some unknown force is systematically destroying stars and moving toward the Milky Way. This goes against everything we understand about astrophysics." "The data supports it," Alan insisted. "Whatever this is, it's real, and it's accelerating." "We need better equipment to track it properly," Olivia added. "And we need to alert the United Space Coalition." Dr. Frost laughed nervously. "You want me to tell the coalition that the galaxy is being eaten? Without solid proof. They'll shut down our funding and recommend psychiatric evaluations." Alan stood up straighter. "Then give us 3 weeks. Let us use the new quantum telescope. If we're wrong, no harm done. If we're right." 3 weeks later, the situation looked far worse. The quantum telescope revealed dark voids where stars should be, not just dead stars, but complete absences, as if space itself had been removed. "It defies all known physics," Olivia whispered as they reviewed the new data. "It's consuming everything. Stars, planets, even the light and matter between them." Alan nodded grimly. "And it's moving faster than we initially calculated. At this rate, it could reach our galaxy within 15 years. The emergency meeting with the coalition took place on the orbiting station Alpha. Representatives from Earth and the Mars colonies joined via secure channels. Alan and Olivia presented their findings to stone-faced officials. "You expect us to believe this?" Admiral Kelly Jenkins asked, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Some cosmic monster eating stars." "We don't know what it is," Alan replied calmly. "We only know what it does. And what it will do when it reaches us." Science Director Peter Howard raised his hand. "Dr. Mercer, what happens when it reaches our solar system?" Alan met his eyes. "Total extinction. No evacuation possible. No survival." Silence filled the room. Then Dr. Howard spoke again. "How certain are you?" "We've tracked the pattern through 7 galaxies now," Olivia answered. "It hasn't missed a single star system in its path. Ever." Admiral Jenkins cleared her throat. "What do you recommend we do with this information?" Alan looked at Olivia, then back at the coalition representatives. "Prepare, research, and warn others." As they left the meeting, Olivia gripped Alan's arm. "You think they believed us?" Alan watched the officials huddled in urgent conversation. "They will. Soon enough, they'll have no choice." Back at the observatory, Alan added new data points to his map, watching as another star disappeared into the growing void, moving inexorably toward Earth. 6 months passed since Alan and Olivia's discovery. The coalition had established a special division dedicated to tracking the expanding void. At the Mars Communication Center, specialist Samantha Donovan worked the night shift monitoring deep space signals. "Another odd pattern," she muttered, adjusting her headset. For weeks, she had detected strange pulses from the edge of the Andromeda galaxy. Tonight, something changed. Her system alerted her to a new signal structure. This wasn't random noise. It contained mathematical sequences. Samantha's heart raced as she began recording the transmission. "Dr. Fisher, you need to see this," she called her supervisor. Dr. William Fisher hurried over, his eyes widening as he watched the signal patterns form on the screen. "Is that?" he began. Samantha nodded. "It's a message, and it's been carefully designed to be decoded by anyone who understands basic mathematics." Within hours, a team of linguists and cryptographers joined them. The message was being transmitted on multiple frequencies and contained repeating patterns that helped them crack the code. 3 days later, Samantha stood before the Coalition Council, trembling slightly as she prepared to share what they'd found. "The message comes from multiple civilizations," she explained. "Based on the transmission points, at least 7 different species contributed to it, all from systems that have already been." She paused, consumed. Admiral Maria Garcia leaned forward. "What exactly does the message say?" "It's a warning," Samantha replied. "They call it the Void, an unstoppable force that consumes everything. The message includes records of their failed attempts to stop it." She displayed the translated text on the main screen. "To any who receive this, the end is approaching your world. We were many civilizations. We are now few survivors. The void cannot be stopped. It consumes all matter, all energy. We tried weapons. We tried peace. Nothing worked. Learn from our failures. Prepare while you can." The room fell silent until Admiral Frank Bennett spoke. "Are there any specific details about this void? Anything that might help us fight it?" Samantha changed the display. "There are technical specifications and observations. The void appears to bend space-time itself. It's not a creature or weapon. It's more like a hole in reality that's growing." "How much time do we have?" asked Counselor Ruth Parker. "Based on their measurements and our observations, 15 years at most before it reaches our solar system." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some council members believed the message was a hoax or misinterpretation. Others demanded immediate evacuation plans. "We can't just abandon the solar system," Admiral Garcia argued. "Where would we even go? The void is consuming everything in its path. We need to understand it before we can fight it," Frank Bennett replied. "These messages might contain the key." By morning, the council reached a decision. They would form the Last Defense Initiative, a program combining research, defense development, and potential evacuation plans. As Samantha left the council chamber, Dr. Fisher caught up with her. "They're still transmitting," he said quietly. "More messages coming in from different locations. Different survivors." He nodded, each with their own story of failure. But something else too. Coordinates, locations of survivor groups. Samantha felt a chill. "You mean there are aliens out there who escaped the void?" "It appears so. And they might be trying to reach us." Back at the communication center, Samantha worked through the night, piecing together more messages. The story they told became increasingly clear and terrifying. The void had consumed thousands of worlds. A few survivors managed to flee, carrying warnings to anyone who would listen. And now, humanity had joined their desperate network. "We need to start sending our own messages," Samantha told Dr. Fisher as dawn approached. "Other civilizations need to know what's coming." "And what should we tell them?" he asked. She stared at the translated alien warnings on her screen. "The truth. The end is inevitable. But maybe survival isn't impossible." The survey ship Dauntless drifted silently at the edge of the Oort cloud. Captain Gregory Norris stood on the bridge, watching the unusual object approaching his vessel. It wasn't like any ship he had seen before. Its design was organic, almost coral-like, with strange lights pulsing along its surface. Life signs, he asked his science officer. Multiple readings, sir. Definitely not human. The radiation signatures match nothing in our database. Gregory took a deep breath. Humanity's first alien contact was happening under the shadow of extinction. How fitting. Open communications on all frequencies. Universal greeting protocol. After 3 tense hours of mathematical exchanges and basic language sharing, the aliens established video communication. Their appearance shocked even the most prepared crew members. Crystalline structures housing what looked like luminous gas. We are the last of the Nexus Confederation, the alien representative explained through the rudimentary translation program. We detected your signals about the void. We have come to share knowledge. Gregory maintained his composure despite his racing heart. We welcome any assistance you can provide. How many of your people survived? 8,000 across 12 vessels. Once, our confederation spanned 300 worlds. The captain invited a delegation aboard the Dauntless. Engineer Diane Collins prepared the docking bay with compatible atmosphere conditions based on data from the alien vessels. When the 3 alien representatives floated into the meeting room, Diane couldn't help but stare. They communicated through light patterns within their crystalline bodies, which the translation devices interpreted with growing accuracy. We fought the void for 200 of your years. The lead alien, who called itself Marishka, explained. We built weapons that could destroy stars. Nothing stopped it. Gregory leaned forward. What exactly is it? Our scientists have theories, but a rupture in space-time. Another alien named Zontu replied. We believe it was created by a species trying to harness dimensional energy. They tore reality itself. Diane asked the question everyone feared. Can it be stopped? The aliens' lights dimmed noticeably. No civilization has succeeded, but many have survived by fleeing. We bring technology that might help your species escape. Over the next days, Diane worked with the aliens, studying their advanced propulsion systems and energy technology. Their ships could travel at speeds Earth's engineers had only dreamed about. This antimatter containment design, Diane muttered, examining alien schematics. It's decades beyond our current capabilities. Marishka's lights pulsed. We can help you build these engines. There are worlds beyond the void's current path. Safe places for now. Gregory sent urgent communications to Earth, preparing them for the arrival of their new allies. Meanwhile, more alien ships appeared. Refugees from 6 different civilizations, all bearing similar warnings and technologies. At an emergency coalition meeting, Admiral Garcia addressed the assembled leaders. The aliens confirm our worst fears, but they also bring hope. Their combined knowledge gives us options we didn't have before. Evacuation should be our priority. Gregory insisted via video link from the Dauntless. The aliens have mapped safe corridors through space. General Joseph Hayes slammed his fist on the table. Run away. That's your plan. Humans don't just surrender. It's not surrender, Diane countered, displaying alien schematics. It's survival. And with their technology, we might eventually find a way to fight back. As the debate raged, more refugee ships arrived in the solar system. Earth governments scrambled to establish first contact protocols and integration plans. The public reaction ranged from panic to awe. On Mars Colony, engineers began adapting alien technology to human vessels. The first prototype antimatter engines were tested successfully, giving humanity a chance at reaching nearby star systems. Gregory watched from the Dauntless as alien ships gathered around Saturn, establishing a temporary settlement on Titan. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of humanity's greatest challenge. Captain, his communications officer called. New signals detected. More survivors approaching. And they say they've seen the void directly. They have footage. Gregory closed his eyes briefly. Send it to Earth immediately. They need to see what's coming. Commander Elijah Carter paced the length of the last Defense Initiative headquarters buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Around the circular table sat Earth's top military leaders, scientists, and now representatives from 3 alien species. The holographic display in the center showed the void's progress. A dark, expanding nothingness consuming everything in its path. "We have 11 years before it reaches our solar system," Elijah said, stopping at the head of the table. "That's not enough time to evacuate everyone." The alien called Marishka pulsed softly. "We evacuated less than 1% of our population. The rest." The translator fell silent, but everyone understood. Dr. Lisa Haywood, a physicist with wild curly hair and perpetually ink-stained fingers, stood up. "I've been analyzing the data from all refugee species, and I found something interesting." She manipulated the hologram to show energy patterns around the void's edge. The void doesn't expand evenly. It has, I guess you could call them thin spots, areas where its energy signature fluctuates. General Joseph Hayes snorted. "And how does this help us? Can we punch through these thin spots?" "No," Lisa replied, not intimidated by his tone. "But we might be able to use them to create a barrier, a dimensional anchor that could halt its expansion, at least temporarily." The room erupted in questions until Admiral Garcia called for order. "Dr. Haywood, explain this in simple terms." Lisa pointed to the hologram. "The void exists partially in our dimension and partially in others. If we could create a massive energy field that reinforces our dimension at these thin spots, we might be able to push it back or stop it." "What would this require?" Elijah asked. "More antimatter than we've ever produced." And she hesitated. "It would need to be deployed directly at the void's edge. Essentially, a suicide mission." Marishka's crystalline body flashed rapidly. "We attempted something similar in the Andromeda arm. It failed." "Because you didn't target the thin spots specifically," Lisa countered. "Your own data shows this." The debate continued for hours. General Hayes argued forcefully that they should focus on evacuation rather than risky defenses. "We have 300 colony ships under construction," he said. "We should prioritize getting as many people off Earth as possible." "And go where?" Elijah asked. "Every habitable system within reach will eventually be consumed too." The alien representative from the Jor Collective, a being of swirling gas named Kethril, spoke through its translator. "We have established sanctuaries in the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. It lies perpendicular to the void's path." Elijah nodded. "So we pursue both strategies: evacuation for as many as possible, and defense for those who remain." By the end of the day, the coalition had approved Lisa's project alongside the evacuation efforts. Solar system defenses would be established on Mars, Jupiter's moons, and Saturn's rings, concentric barriers to slow the void's advance. Lisa worked with engineers to design massive antimatter generators. The alien technology made it possible to produce quantities that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. "Will this really work?" Diane Collins asked as she helped Lisa calibrate a prototype. Lisa shrugged. "Honestly, I don't know. But if we don't try, we're guaranteed to lose everything." Meanwhile, refugees from other systems continued to arrive, bringing more ships, more technology, and more stories of failed resistance. Their temporary settlements on Titan and Europa grew into small cities. Elijah spent long hours studying their accounts, looking for any edge, any strategy that might have shown even partial success. One night, he found something interesting in the records from a species called the Vox. "They never managed to stop the void," he told Lisa the next morning. "But they slowed it down using gravitational lensing on a massive scale." Lisa's eyes widened. "If we could combine that with my anchor theory." For the first time in months, a glimmer of hope appeared. Not of victory. No one believed that was possible anymore, but of buying time. Time for more ships to escape. Time for humanity to survive, even as its cradle was destroyed. "We need to start construction immediately," Elijah said. "The clock is ticking." Admiral Natalie Reeves stood on the bridge of the flagship Guardian, watching Neptune's blue surface through the viewscreen. Behind her, crew members worked quietly at their stations. The Fifth Fleet spread out around Neptune's orbit, humanity's first line of defense against the void. "Status report," Natalie ordered. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kyle Bennett, looked up from his console. "All ships in position, Admiral. Antimatter cannons charged and ready. We've deployed the gravitational lenses at the calculated coordinates." "And the void?" Kyle's face tightened, still accelerating. "New estimate puts arrival at Neptune's orbit in 3 hours." 3 hours. Natalie turned sharply. "That's 2 days earlier than predicted." "Yes, Mom. It's moving faster than our models projected." Natalie activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Reeves. The enemy has accelerated. Prepare for engagement in 3 hours. This is not a drill." She tried to keep her voice steady, but her heart hammered in her chest. The void wasn't supposed to reach Neptune for another week. The evacuation of the research bases on Triton wasn't complete. "Send immediate evacuation orders to Triton Base. All personnel must launch within the hour." On Earth, the news of the void's acceleration spread panic through already tense populations. The evacuation ships, still under construction in orbit, weren't ready. Dr. Lisa Haywood rushed her calculations, working with alien scientists to adjust their defense strategy. "We need more power to the gravitational lenses," she told Elijah Carter. "The void is moving faster because it's growing stronger. It's feeding on something." Back at Neptune, Admiral Reeves watched as the last shuttle escaped from Triton. One research team remained behind to gather final data readings. They knew they wouldn't make it out. "Admiral," Kyle said quietly, "it's visible now." The view screen shifted to long-range sensors. At first, Natalie saw nothing unusual, just stars and space. Then she noticed where stars should be but weren't, but perfect darkness, an absence of everything, expanding toward them. "All ships, battle stations, prepare to fire on my command." The fleet's new weapons had never been tested against the void. Based on alien technology and Dr. Haywood's theories, the antimatter cannons were designed to reinforce the fabric of space-time itself. "Gravitational lenses activated," Kyle reported. "Energy readings stable." Natalie took a deep breath. "Fire." Beams of concentrated energy shot from the fleet, channeled through the gravitational lenses to multiply their power. They struck the edge of the void in a brilliant display that lit up Neptune's atmosphere. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Kyle shouted, "It's working. The void's advance has slowed by 30%. A cheer went up on the bridge, quickly silenced as Natalie raised her hand. "Stay focused. Maintain fire." For 6 hours, the fleet poured energy into the barrier. The void slowed but didn't stop. Its darkness crept forward, now visible to the naked eye, as a hole in reality itself. "Power reserves at 20%, Kyle reported, his voice strained. "The lenses are starting to fail." "Redirect power from life support if necessary," Natalie ordered. "We need to hold it back as long as possible." On the research station orbiting Triton, the remaining scientists transmitted data continuously to Earth. Their final message came just as the void reached Neptune's moon. "It's beautiful in a terrible way. Like watching the universe unravel. Tell them we." The transmission cut off. Triton vanished. "Admiral," Kyle's voice cracked. "Neptune it's being consumed." Natalie watched in horror as the giant blue planet began to disappear, not exploding or breaking apart, but simply ceasing to exist as the void touched it. Within minutes, there was nothing left but emptiness where a planet had been. "All ships, emergency withdrawal to Uranus defensive line," Natalie ordered. "We've lost this position." As the fleet retreated, Natalie sent one final message to Earth. "Neptune is gone." The weapons slowed but couldn't stop the void. "We need something stronger. Tell Dr. Haywood we need a new plan. We have less time than we thought." Engineer Paul Wilson hadn't slept in 3 days. His hand shook slightly as he made final adjustments to the quantum entanglement communicator. This device represented humanity's last hope of spreading their message to distant galaxies beyond the void's path. "Is it ready?" asked Dr. Lisa Haywood, entering the laboratory with dark circles under her eyes. Paul nodded. "The entanglement is stable. We can transmit across unlimited distances with no time delay." "And the probes?" "Launch ready. Each one contains the complete package, the warning, our scientific data, cultural archives, everything we know about the void." The Coalition had approved the warning project 2 months ago, after the fall of Neptune. As evacuation ships filled with Earth's refugees launched daily toward the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, a small team worked to ensure humanity's knowledge wouldn't die even if they did. In orbit above Earth, 50 sleek probes waited in their launch bays. Unlike conventional spacecraft, these would use a combination of alien technology and Dr. Haywood's theoretical physics to travel faster than light, carrying humanity's message to the farthest reaches of the universe. "The first batch targets the Triangulum Galaxy," Paul explained, displaying a star map. "The second will head toward galaxies perpendicular to the void's path, places that might have thousands or millions of years before it reaches them." Lisa studied the trajectory plans. "What exactly will they receive?" Paul activated a holographic display, the complete warning package. First, mathematical sequences to establish basic communication. Then, detailed data on the void, everything we've learned from our own observations and from the refugee species. And the timeline, precise records of how fast it moves, how it accelerates when consuming large masses, our best predictions for its future path. He hesitated. "We've also included all our failed defense strategies. No point in making others repeat our mistakes." Lisa nodded, then asked the question that had been troubling her. "Did you include the dimensional anchor theory?" "Yes, even though we haven't tested it yet. It's our most promising idea, even if it's—" He trailed off. "A suicide mission," Lisa finished. "I know." Across the solar system, similar conversations happened as humanity prepared its final acts. The remaining military fleet gathered at Earth and Mars, ready for a last stand that few believed could succeed. In the Coalition's underground headquarters, Commander Elijah Carter addressed the assembled leaders. "The evacuation fleet reports 1.2 billion humans successfully transported to the safe zones. That's approximately 15% of our population." He paused, letting the terrible math sink in. "The remaining evacuation ships can take another 300 million at most." "What about the warning probes?" asked Admiral Garcia. "Ready for launch. Engineer Wilson assures me they'll reach their targets." Outside the bunker, in cities around the world, people waited. Some still hoped for evacuation ships that would never come. Others had accepted their fate and spent their remaining time with loved ones. At the launch facility, Paul watched as the first wave of probes lifted off, their exotic engines creating ripples in the fabric of space-time. "Message buoys away," reported the launch controller. "Tracking nominal." Paul felt a strange sense of peace. The probes would survive even if humanity didn't. Their warning would echo across the cosmos long after Earth was gone. "We should name them," Lisa said softly, watching the probes disappear into the darkness of space. "Name them." "Yes, they're carrying everything we are. Our knowledge, our warnings, our hopes. They're the last voice of humanity." Paul thought for a moment. "Cassandra probes," he said finally. After the prophet, no one believed. Lisa smiled sadly. "Perfect." As the Cassandra probes accelerated beyond the solar system, sacrifice teams prepared for Earth's final defense. Volunteers worked feverishly to build Dr. Haywood's dimensional anchors, devices designed to tear holes in the universe itself to counter the void. No one knew if they would work. But as the void consumed Uranus and continued its relentless advance, one thing became certain. Humanity would not go quietly into that endless night. Dr. Lisa Haywood stood on the observation deck of the space station Bulwark, orbiting between Earth and Mars. Through the reinforced window, she could see the void approaching, a perfect darkness against the starfield, growing larger by the hour. Behind her, the last evacuation ships departed Earth's atmosphere, carrying the final groups of humans who would escape. "Is the anchor ready?" she asked without turning around. Commander Elijah Carter checked his tablet. "All 7-dimensional anchors are in position. Power levels optimal." "And the volunteers?" "At their stations. Everyone knows what to do." Lisa nodded slowly. The plan was desperate, born from the combined knowledge of a dozen fallen civilizations and her own theoretical work. The dimensional anchors, massive devices positioned in a precise pattern around the inner solar system, would attempt to create a permanent barrier by bending space-time itself. No one expected to survive the attempt. "It's time," Elijah said softly. "The void will reach Mars in 43 minutes. Lisa turned to face the command center where the skeleton crew worked. All volunteers, all heroes. None of them would see tomorrow, but they might save countless other worlds. "Begin the sequence," she ordered. Across the solar system, the anchors activated, drawing power from antimatter reactors. Energy beams connected them, forming a web of light around Earth, Mars, and Venus. On the last communication channel to the evacuation fleet, Admiral Natalie Reeves watched the final defense unfold. "What do you think?" asked Captain Gregory Norris, standing beside her on the bridge of the colony ship Hope. "I think they're braver than I could ever be," she replied. "They're trading their lives for a chance, just a chance, to stop something unstoppable." The fleet carried over 2 billion humans and thousands of representatives from other species, all fleeing toward distant stars. Most would never see their homes again. Back at Bulwark Station, Lisa monitored the energy readings with growing concern. "The pattern isn't stabilizing," she said. "We need more power." Elijah looked grim. "There is no more power. We're at maximum output." Lisa stared at the equation scrolling across her screen. Then she saw it. A solution, but one with a terrible cost. "We need to collapse the inner planets," she said quietly. "Their mass, converted to energy at the moment of contact with the void, could power the anchors." Elijah's eyes widened. "You're talking about sacrificing Earth. Earth is already lost. This way, its end might mean something." The decision was made quickly. Emergency signals went out to any remaining people on Earth, Mars, and Venus, though few would have time to react. The anchors were reconfigured to channel the energy that would be released when the planets touched the void. 10 minutes to contact," reported a technician. Lisa sent one final message to the evacuation fleet. "Remember us. Warn them. Prepare." The void reached Mars first. The red planet didn't explode or burn. It simply ceased to exist, its matter converted to energy that surged through the anchor network. The station shuddered as power readings spiked beyond anything their instruments could measure. "It's working," Elijah shouted. "The barrier is forming." Venus went next, adding its energy to the growing shield. The dimensional anchors strained under the load, their structures beginning to fail as they channeled forces never meant to be contained. Then Earth, beautiful blue Earth, cradle of humanity, touched the edge of the void. In the moment before Bulwark Station was consumed, Lisa saw something remarkable on her sensors. The void had stopped advancing. The barrier was holding. A wall of distorted space-time that the darkness couldn't penetrate. "We did it," she whispered. Aboard the Hope, now millions of miles away, Admiral Reeves watched the sensors record the destruction of the inner solar system. Then, impossibly, they showed the void's advance halting. "They succeeded," she told the silent bridge crew. "The barrier is holding." Throughout the evacuation fleet, humans and aliens alike watched their instruments in awe. The void had been contained, not destroyed, but stopped at the line drawn by Earth's final defenders. In the decades that followed, humanity and their alien allies would spread across new stars, carrying the warning to all who would listen. The message was simple: The end is inevitable, but with courage, sacrifice, and unity, survival is possible. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the Cassandra probes continued their eternal journey, bearing humanity's last warning to worlds yet unknown. 100 years after Earth's destruction, the colony ship Hope descended through the atmosphere of Sanctuary, the most developed human settlement in the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. Admiral Medley Reeves was long gone, but her granddaughter, Commander Becca Reeves, stood on the observation deck watching the sprawling city grow larger below. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" asked an elderly man who joined her at the window. "Hard to believe we built all this in a century." Becca nodded. "Director Wilson, I didn't expect you to meet us personally." Director John Wilson, son of engineer Paul Wilson, who had created the Cassandra probes, smiled faintly. "I wouldn't miss the return of the Hope. You're the last ship to complete the Long Survey." The Long Survey had been humanity's most ambitious project since the evacuation. 20 colony ships sent in different directions to map the new galaxy and seek other survivors of the void. "Did you find what you were looking for?" John asked quietly. Becca's expression grew serious. "Yes, and that's why I asked to speak with the Council immediately." Inside Sanctuary's central chamber, the governing Council of Humans and aliens gathered to hear Becca's report. Representatives from 12 species sat in a circular arrangement, each adapted to their own environmental needs. "The void barrier is failing," Becca announced without preamble. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A Nexus Confederation representative's crystalline body flashed with agitation. "How certain are you?" asked Council Leader Maya Chen. Becca activated a holographic display showing the solar system where Earth once existed. "We observed hairline fractures in the dimensional barrier, small but growing. Our science team estimates total collapse within 50 years. And then the void will continue its expansion," asked Kethril of the Jor Collective. "Yes, following its original trajectory, directly toward this galaxy." The chamber erupted in panicked discussion until Maya called for order. "Commander Reeves, did your survey team discover anything else of importance?" Becca nodded. "Two things. First, we found evidence of other dimensional barriers. At least 3 other civilizations attempted Dr. Haywood's strategy. All eventually failed. And the second thing," Becca hesitated, "we discovered a Cassandra probe returned from the far side of the universe. It carried response messages." This silenced the chamber completely. "Other civilizations received our warning?" John Wilson asked, his voice trembling. "Yes. Ancient species in galaxies the void won't reach for millions of years. They've been studying it far longer than we have." Becca took a deep breath. "And they believe they've found its origin point." She displayed new coordinates on the hologram, showing a location in deep space far from any galaxy. "The void isn't natural. It was created as a weapon in a war so ancient that the species involved are long extinct. But the weapon continued expanding long after they were gone." "How does this help us?" asked Maya. "Because weapons have control mechanisms," Becca explained. "The ancient civilizations believe if we can reach this origin point, we might find a way to deactivate it." The silence that followed was heavy with implication. The journey would take decades, even with their most advanced ships. "We would need to build a special vessel," John said, breaking the silence. "Something that could survive near the void's edge. And select a crew willing to risk everything," added Kethril. Becca nodded, "just like our ancestors did to save us." Maya stood, addressing the council. "We have 50 years before the barrier fails. 50 years to prepare either another evacuation or an expedition to the origin point. I call for an immediate vote." As council members indicated their choices, Becca returned to the window overlooking Sanctuary. In the century since leaving Earth, humanity had rebuilt, adapted, and forged new alliances. They had mourned their lost home and created a new one. Now they faced the same choice their ancestors had: run again or take a stand against the darkness. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not run again. Project Genesis began the next day, humanity's mission to find the void's origin and end the threat once and for all.